So we've just squared up the ends of our blank here for our pulley in the miter saw. And now we're getting ready to take it over to the lathe. So I gotta get the 4-jaw chuck in and get set up for this piece here, and we'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we've got our shop back here. We've got the hose clamped to the to our actual tool that we're going to be using. We have the work set up now in the 4-jaw, and I have a live center in here, and I simply I press that in a little bit. We don't need a ton of support here. We're not going to be taking a lot of heavy cuts, and we'll see how this goes. All right. Oh, and also I've covered my lathe as best as I can right now with some towels to try and help reduce the amount of wood dust that I'm going to have to clean off later. So, all right. We'll see you in a bit. You notice that this is working quite well. I'm getting a very minimal amount of sawdust anywhere I don't want it. So if you're going to turn wood on your metal lathe, I suggest that you do this. You can see our chips are just getting mostly sucked right into the vacuum cleaner here. And the lathe is remaining pretty clean. Okay, so as you can see, we've now got our piece turned nice and round. Very happy with this seam. This is what it should look like if you've done your gluing properly and everything's flat. It's clamped together nicely. You can see it up here where that seam is, and look, it's just almost completely invisible. Very happy with the way the my little shop vac dust collection setup actually worked out here. And if you'll notice, very little wood dust actually got on the machine, and I bet we're gonna have a very, very minimal cleanup once I've taken these rags off of here. I'm gonna vacuum up all the little extra loose stuff, but probably 99% of the wood dust is actually getting sucked right into the vacuum cleaner. And you know what? I had this idea. I was over on a Practical Machinist, and somebody had put up an old video of them machining uranium, black and white video, and that's how they were doing it. Is they had a big shop vac system basically, and it was next to the tool as they were machining the uranium. Very interesting, by the way, to watch if you like that kind of thing. You get to see them using a shaper and everything on the uranium. So I would check that out. There's a thread on Practical Machinist. I think it's just called Machining Uranium. It's over in the Antique Machinery and History section. And you should be able to get to it there. But all that aside, not to get too off subject, yeah, you really should, if you're going to machine do any kind of woodworking on your metal machines, get yourself a little shop vac. It's going to save you all kinds of anguish. All your metalworking machines are all going to be oily, or at least they should be oily. If they're not oily, you need to make them oily. And of course the dust gets all stuck to everything, and it just gums everything up, and you have to do all kinds of cleanup after doing any kind of wood. With this, very, very, very minimal at all. So, our next step is going to be, I need to calculate the exact diameter that I want this pulley. So I'm going to go on to an online pulley calculator, speed calculator. We know that this needs to spin. This is going to be spinning at 1725, and we know that our press over here, according to our catalog, says should run. Where's that say that? Oh, here we go. Should run 650 revolutions per minute. Now that would be the speed of our input pulley here. So 650 is going to be a little bit fast. I'm going to try and dial it down to 600, but I'm going to figure out what size of the pulley is, and we may be going with 650. So I'm going to figure that out, and then I'll finish our turning, get the pulley completed, and then I'll show you how I intend to mount it to this shaft here. And I'll see you in the next clip. Okay, so I went online and I found the pulley calculator. And they're really simple, you know, they're all pretty much the same. You just go on Google and type in pulley calculator, and you'll find what you're looking for. What you need to do is you need the size and the RPM. Now, we know the size of our input pulley on our drill, okay? That's 4 inches. We know the speed it needs to run at, which is 650 RPM, and we know that the speed of our motor is 1725 RPM. I believe I said earlier it was 1750. Some are 1750, some are 1725. The standard motors. And so you put these 3 figures into your pulley calculator, and you'll get the figure for your motor pulley. And in this case, it happens to be right at 1.5 inches. Well, not exactly. 1.572463. But we're turning wood. 1.5 is going to be just right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get our spring calipers out, and we'll set them against our rule for 1.5 inches. And we'll go ahead and we'll set about turning the rest of our pulley. I'm setting my calipers at about a 1/16 of an inch, a little less than a 1/16 of an inch, larger than 1.5 inches. And this will allow me a little bit of extra room to take a very light finishing cut if I want to, so I get a good smooth finish, or to sand it down just slightly and get it all nice and smoothed out. The length of our pulley, this is 3 3/8 inches wide. So we're going to make the length of our pulley 3.5 inches wide, and that'll be the working surface of the pulley itself, not counting the shoulders for our little spool edge, which are going to be, well, about 3/8 of an inch wide. Sounds about right to me. Okay. And here we have our pulley. I just So, as we intended, we're just a hair over, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it that way. I am quite happy with the finish I've got on here. It's extremely smooth, and the way I did this was just like you would do when you're doing metal. You know, for my finishing cuts, come back, take a very light, very light pass, you know, maybe 5 thousandths or so. And then when it's at the end of its pass, what I like to do is, you know, I can reverse the lead screw here while the machine is running. So when I get to the end of my cut, all I did is I kicked the half nut lever out, reversed the lead screw, kick it back in, didn't change anything else, and just came back and forth. And actually I did this a couple of times. I did maybe 2 or 3 spring cuts. Now the tool is not really going to be springing. Remember, you're turning wood. However, it does raise little hairs and things on the wood, and coming back and taking like a spring cut will get rid of that. I mean, you look at that. I don't even need to sand that at all. It's a, you know, maybe a very light sanding, and then I haven't decided yet. I think I'm just gonna, because it is a pulley, I'm not sure if I should put any oil or anything on it, and maybe a little bit of varnish. Well, we'll see how it goes. Alright, so our next step here is going to be, excuse me, it's going to be to part this off. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's not our next step. We don't want to do that yet. Our next step will be to drill the hole so to 3/4 inches so it fits our shaft. And I got to look around for the proper bit to do that. So, see you in a bit. We're going to start by drilling ourselves a pilot hole. Now that we've got it started, we're just going to let our tail splash slide and use hand pressure. Alright. Okay, we've just finished parting off our pulley. Just burned it a little bit when we were parting it off. That's no big deal. We'll clean this up a little bit with a rasp. The other end. Quite happy with this. And what we're going to do to fix it to our little shaft here is we'll drill a hole in this and a corresponding hole in the shaft, and we'll tap it, and I'll just put in a screw. And I've already checked the fit on this. It's very tight, so alright. Well, I just ran a little test on the motor, and it's spinning the wrong way. So, yeah, that was a little bit unexpected. Anybody know how to reverse one of these? Because I'd really like to use this motor. It did run the drill, and it ran it fairly smoothly. Only for a minute or two. The motor got rather warm. I may have to investigate that. But that just may have been a result of trying to switch the wires around to these different poles in here. Ooh! It gave me a little shock. Probably shouldn't do that. But it's not plugged in, so... In fact, it doesn't have the cord on it now. But I was changing the poles around here and seeing if I could get it to run reverse. And I don't know. I'm not an electrician, but some of you guys out there that are good with electrical stuff, yeah, definitely need to do something. I mean, I could, of course, change over my plan of how I was going to mount this and turn the motor around this way and then put the pillow block bearing there, and I could do that, and I might do that. I might have to do that, but I would prefer not to do that because I like this sort of compact setup here. But if I do end up having to do that, then I may just I may use a different motor, or I may mount the motor in a different position. Maybe I'll put it down. Maybe I'll put it down under the bench, mount the tool to the bench or something like that. Which would be a pretty nice clean setup. You know, you wouldn't have the motor in the way.